Hi, I'm Benton Stokes.
And I'm Elane O'Rourke.
And this is Cocktail Theology. So today we are talking about faith.
Yes, we are.
One of the verses that comes to mind when one considers faith, particularly if one is from a Christian background, is Matthew 17:20. This is Jesus talking. For truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you.
So this verse has been used as much as any verse I've ever heard to beat people up.
Yes.
So I'm going to need a drink before we talk about this. What is it we're drinking right now?
So this is another cocktail from our friend David Leibowitz's book, Drinking French. And it is called My Tailor is Rich. I don't know why he's hemming people's pants if he's rich, but okay. So this is...
Maybe he just likes taking the measurements.
Maybe he does. I mean, I can blame him. So what is in this cocktail is white rum, fresh lime juice, triple sec, or really any quality orange liqueur. We have a French triple sec that we like a lot that we've been using lately for that. And then it also has a little bit of a honey syrup, not very much. And then it gets topped with a grapefruit soda. In this case, it's Q, grapefruit.
Because we like Q.
We like Q.
Okay.
So let's go to try.
All right. So this is a sparkly bubbly thing.
It is.
Which, as you know, is not always my favorite. So you always have to you have a higher bar when it's a sparkly bubbly thing. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I would drink that at a high bar or a low bar.
It is really good.
That is good. I like that. Mm-hmm. That's really well balanced.
Yeah, the honey is subtle.
Mm-hmm. It just basically kind of adds, this is not accurate, but it adds like unctuousness, right? Like it adds this kind of thickness to the flavor.
Yeah.
So it's not quite so sharp.
It definitely does.
I like it.
I like it too.
So let's talk about faith.
The definition of faith that I grew up with is that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen.
What's that supposed to mean exactly?
I'm not really sure.
Okay, fair enough.
It's kind of enigmatic, if you ask me. Substance of things hoped for, the stuff dreams are made of. I'm not really sure. And then
when you
it's sort of like that.
On a star.
And then evidence of things unseen. Well, I mean, I suppose if we are living the way Jesus lived and the way Jesus taught us to live, then we become something like evidence of God in the world.
Wow.
But that's just, to me, that's kind of a stretch.
Wow.
I don't really know how to get there. And then, of course, faith means all kinds of things depending on the context. You have George Michael, shaking his butt, and you got to have faith, faith, faith. That's a good one.
Oh, all the things. There's so many things. We could do an episode just on that sentence, my friend.
We really could. It might be interesting to talk about what faith is and what faith isn't.
Yes.
And particularly sort of a big scare quotes Christian definition or quote biblical definition of faith versus kind of more of a popular definition of faith, and how faith actually, if it's working in your life, if faith is a part of your life, and we would love to hear from you listeners on this.
Yes.
If faith is a part of your life, what does it mean to you personally? What does that word faith mean to you? And how is it lived out in your life?
Right. It seems to me that in the context from which you came, there's this idea that faith is something you could hand somebody in a box, potentially, right? Mm-hmm. Like, here, I'm going to give you faith. Or faith is something that if you sit there long enough, you can grab out of the sky and have it and then hold it. Faith becomes this object that can be owned, held on to, something like that.
Yeah.
There's a very nouny sense about faith in that. I have never once met anyone who had faith as a noun. Never once, as a human being. Mm-hmm. And I'll get back to that in just a second. More popularly, it seems to me, that when people talk about faith in any kind of context beyond, I have faith, I'll get, kind of other than a throwaway. It means religious faith, like a particular practice. That's practice equals faith, or it means accepting something without any evidence, and it's always outlandish.
Okay.
When non-God-y, non-spiritual, can't say non-spiritual, but non-God-y people talk about faith, they often use the word faith, that someone has faith, to imply that they're stupid or unthoughtful.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that those are kind of the common ways of talking about faith, which is also really different from that way of talking about faith as something you could put in a box.
Right.
It kills me. The reason it kills me is not because it's incorrect, because like often I can get really upset over things just being wrong, because that's me. And I'm picky about language. My daughter the other day just said, "You are way too picky about language." And I was like, "But language matters. Darn it. I mean, never mind." So it isn't just about that. The reason it upsets me so much is because we will blame people's misfortune for them not having enough faith. We will blame a continuing illness on somebody not praying hard enough, or not having enough faith to heal the person.
Right.
You know, I know we have all heard or read someone saying to a grieving person who is questioning, why did this have to happen? Well, if you had just prayed harder, or, you know, maybe you didn't have enough people with enough faith.
That's so gross.
It just upsets me so much that I can barely like hang on to myself. So I think that's the reason it's important to talk about it.
Yeah.
And to actually get rid of that notion, to unpack what Jesus is trying to say, sort of, and then talk about what that actually means in our life.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I start with the Jesus piece?
Of course.
Okay. Jesus is pissed off. Okay. He's not coming up and counseling them and saying, you know, had you had enough faith, this young man actually would have been raised from the dead. And let me teach you how to do that.
Right.
He's not doing that. He's saying, you idiots. When people start a sentence by saying, you idiots, what follows is generally hyperbole. That's what he's doing. He's being hyperbolic. He's just come back from the transfiguration, right? He's just come back from taking his 3 closest disciples up, showing them who he is, showing them the glory of God. They want to go talk about it. He says, shh, we're not going to talk about it. They come down the mountain, and there's this poor man who's brought his kid, who isn't well. I believe it's epilepsy, but I've forgotten exactly. And this guy goes to the disciples and says, cure my child. And they're like, you know. And he comes down from this glorious mountaintop experience to the reality of his disciples actually not being able to do what he does.
Yeah.
And he vents.
Yeah.
Period. The only way it ties to anything else scriptural, and this is important, is that earlier on, he talks about the kingdom of heaven being like a mustard seed that is planted, forgotten, and grows into this magnificent thing. Yeah. He's referring back to that parable, right? He's basically saying, if you had the kind of faith that the kingdom of heaven has, as exemplified in this mustard seed parable I told you 3 chapters ago, then this could happen. But he's not saying, you idiots, you should have had that faith. Right? He's saying, this is what this means. This is what I was talking about means.
Yeah.
So anytime that passage is used to berate somebody about whether they have had enough of whatever that person thinks they should have had, I guess arrogance, then, you know, it just fries me. So I've gotten that off my chest. I don't know if you've experienced that, whether that's one of the bashing passages for you, but it is one that I have definitely heard.
I've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it used too.
Okay. I've gotten the rant out. I'm fine on the rant. I can just move on. So I think a better way to think about faith, and a way that actually is a lot more biblical than that one, is that faith is a verb. You have to remember faith is a verb. Okay? One acts faithfully, one has faith, but faith is, in that sense, it's more like one is faithing. Okay? No one has faith. It takes effort to have faith. Okay? So let's say that I have faith that the number 5 bus is going to show up. Why do I have faith that the number 5 bus is going to show up? Because I have a bus schedule on my phone and there are other people waiting.
And it shows up at that time every day and has for a long, long time.
Or it doesn't. And you're sitting there going, but I have faith it's going to come because I'm going to get, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's one kind of faith. But the other sense of faith, which is still verbal, if you will, is that you develop faith in something because you have experience of it, which is what you talked about.
Right.
Right? So if I have faith in you, it's because I have an experience of you that leads me to trust that whatever it is, right? So if you tell me you're going to take out the trash, I have faith that you take out the trash because I have experienced you're living up to your word of taking out the trash, right?
Yeah.
Now, if there's anything to come into doubt about that, the bus doesn't show, the bus is late, you don't take out the trash at the exact moment I think you're going to, whatever. Then it takes me effort to faith.
Right.
It takes me effort to continue to do that. And what happens over time is if that effort is strained by a particular person, you lose faith in that person. Now, that doesn't mean that you handed back the box of faith that somebody gave you. It means that the effort of continuing to faith grows harder, and because the evidence actually is getting lesser and lesser and lesser.
Right.
Okay? So when you talk about faith being evidence of things unseen, it isn't the faith that is the evidence of things unseen. Faith is based on the future opportunity that things that are currently unseen will happen because there is evidence that they have happened.
They've already happened, right.
That's what Paul's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the idea. And the fact is we all have faith. All of us. Whether we believe in God, whether we believe in each other, whatever it is, we have faith. Sometimes the only kind of faith we have is faith in ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is exactly not faith in ourselves, and it's faith in somebody else, or it's faith in God, or it's faith in whatever. But it is that sense that I have come to trust this reality because I have experienced this reality, or I've experienced the destruction of all my other realities, and this is the last one I've got.
Right.
Now, that one's often really powerful. If we're going through a season where we feel that everything has fallen to whatever, then sometimes faith is clinging to the one thing that's left, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
That's also faith. And if you've ever clung to anything, I can guarantee that it takes effort.
Yes, it does.
So, questions, thoughts, comments?
Dotson has thoughts, apparently.
Dotson has thoughts. Dotson has faith that you're going to open the door. And look, you opened the door.
You better behave. You're
Right?
come in here.
Right. What just happened, folks, was the cat was crying outside of our studio door. We heard him doing it. We talked about it for a minute. He stood there crying. He has been trained to have faith in the door opening. Now, I'm dead serious here.
It's true.
Okay? He trusts, and I wouldn't say he trusts like we do because his emotions and his brain work differently, but his experience is that if he sits there and meows long enough and is annoying enough, someone will open the door for him.
Yes.
That's faith. And what will happen is if we don't open the door for him, the first 300-400 times we don't open the door, he'll keep trying.
He will.
But when we open the door again, his faith thing will be rewarded. And it will
Faith cup will be refilled.
His faith cup will be refilled, and he will be re-engaged in trusting that we will open the portal for him.
Right.
That's faith.
Yeah. So from where I grew up, having faith was one of those things that I think people held on to in ways that weren't healthy, like having faith that a loved one wasn't going to die or that God was going to cure someone from whatever it was that was ailing them without them actually going and seeking medical treatment and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Like the bad kind of faith healing. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of, yeah. It was a very confusing thing to me to understand what faith is and how you get it and how you keep it. Somebody a few years ago, I couldn't tell you where I heard it, but it sort of was a light bulb moment for me, said sometimes you have to ask God for faith. Mm-hmm. And I thought faith was something I had to come up with by myself,
Right,
you know? Or
right.
faith was something that I possess or I don't. Uh-huh. But asking God for faith when It's sort of like that passage, help me with my unbelief. I believe, but help me with my unbelief. I think that became a prayer for me for a long time. Help me with my unbelief.
Okay.
And I still pray that sometimes. Whenever there's a situation and you're just having a hard time believing that it's going to work out, asking God to help you believe that it will work out. Even if that really means, give me hope, or give me perseverance, or give me stamina to wait this out, or patience, or whatever, because there's probably a number of words that could actually fill that blank.
Yes.
But when you say, give me faith, for me, that's actually really what I'm asking for.
Right.
Help me not give up.
So keep the activity going.
Yeah, help me not give up. Which to me then, when you say faith is a verb, it means faith is sort of equal to trust.
Yes.
Trust is the active form of this word faith that could be a lot of amorphous things.
Yeah, and I think that very few of us think that trust is something you automatically have. Because we talk about earning trust, for example.
Trust is something people understand that has to be earned, and you have to work at it.
Right. But faith becomes this mystical thing that you have or don't have.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons that blind faith, one of the reasons that's become such a pivotal phrase is because people don't understand what it takes to have faith.
Right.
And for me, the easiest marker of what faith actually is to think about when I have lost faith.
Ah, sure.
Okay? Particularly in people.
Yeah.
Right? I'm thinking about one particular thing where I had faith in an outcome for a very long time. I lost faith in that outcome. And when I looked back, I told myself, I realized looking back, that I had created this trust in the outcome in order to keep going.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I kept going, which is all good, and got to the end of that season and went, I kept going based on this trust that this thing would happen. It didn't happen. That doesn't mean I didn't have faith enough. It means there were other things involved that I didn't have control over.
Yeah.
I don't have control over other people.
Not at all. Right.
If you think about places where you've had faith, particularly in people, it's really helpful because it makes more sense, right? Where you've had faith in somebody and you've not been able to sustain the faith in that person, and it's almost always about doing what they tell you they're going to do.
Yeah.
Almost always. Then you can start to understand what faith is. That's why having faith in the promises of God is so terrifying. Because we have all been hurt so often by promises being broken.
Yeah.
Or by people promising something they never had an intention of keeping, or simply not being able to and not being able to fess up to it. I mean, all those things around breaking of trust, breaking of faith, breaking of promises. That then when God says something like, you can depend upon me, I love you, you are precious to me, it's hard. It's hard. And because God isn't taking out the trash, you can't just kind of go, okay, there's one.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's one of the tricky bits. No getting around it. I'm not going to give a simple solution to that. It is one of the tricky bits.
It definitely is. Listeners, tell us about your experiences with faith. Have you ever been beaten up by that verse about the mustard seed, that you didn't have enough faith for a situation to turn out the way that you wanted it to? We would love to hear from you. Cocktailtheology.com is where we are. We love your questions, your observations. We love hearing from you. We also love ideas for new episodes. We've gotten several ideas this season so far, and we're looking for more, so bring us more. And we also love cocktail ideas, by the way.
Yeah, we do love cocktail ideas. We like them whether they come in a book or in a nook or from a fox or in a box.
It's true.
I could just go on like this for a while. You should probably stop me.
All right, friends, till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.